All right, everyone, welcome. I had this idea just a few days ago to do this Ask a Coach. And so I'm glad that you guys made it, those of you who joined on short notice. So that's kind of how I run things. I think when I get ideas, I just like to act on them. So happy to see you guys. I want to do as much coaching as possible, answer as many questions as I can. I do have some email questions that I'll get to as well. So go ahead and raise your hand if you are in the mood for some coaching. Maybe as you're raising your hands and deciding, you can look, there is a chat there. You can say hi in the chat and where you're calling from if you want. And maybe just as a little getting ready for the coaching, because no one has raised their hand yet. And maybe you don't know where to find how to raise your hand. It's in the reactions at the bottom. And okay, there's a hand raise. Yeah. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, reactions, and then you should be able to raise your hand. But as we're doing that and people are joining, I want to show you a little strategy for calming your nervous system. And you could just grab any object that's around. I'm holding this like crystal that someone gave me. It's on my desk. And like a pen or lipstick or something that you can pass from one hand to the other. You're going to cross the midline of your body and just pass it. If this is something that is not comfortable to you for whatever reason, if you have some symptoms or pain with it, don't worry about this. There's a lot of other ways to calm your nervous system with peripheral vision or breathing techniques, but go ahead and try this if it feels comfortable to you. And just kind of notice, I should have had you notice how your body was feeling first, but there is this soothing effect when you're crossing midline, when you're distracting the mind with some physical task. And so this could be something, sometimes even when I'm on a Zoom call, I can do this to calm myself down so that I can be more present and hold space for people. So hopefully that helps as you're coming for coaching, because I know sometimes that can feel vulnerable. So I appreciate all that you that are here, that are volunteering. And let's start with Becky. Rebecca, go by Becky. Hi.
Hi.
All
Thank you.
right. My pleasure. Do you have a question?
A question. Trying to sleep
Mm.
and your mind is going a million miles a minute, and you've done all the natural supplements and melatonin and all the relaxing herbs and the relaxing tea, and it just won't give.
Mhm.
Um, any tools to relax your nervous system while you're in bed? I'm trying to
Mhm.
stay there, and I'm trying to sleep, and I do
Yeah.
the breathe and voo and
Yeah. Have you found anything that has worked or that has moved the needle for you?
um it's sometimes it does, like sometimes magnesium. I'll take a whole bunch of magnesium, sometimes an Epsom salt bath, sometimes it doesn't. So
Yeah. Okay.
what using when
Yeah.
worked last night and now nothing's working, and I
Yeah.
try the Arian and passion flower and skullcap and you know
Mm.
all the little tinctures. I'll
Yeah.
go back to bed for 20 minutes and nope, not working, try something else, give it 20 minutes. But I
Yeah.
some sort of relaxation while I'm in bed and it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like, one of the thing the mind goes to is, breath work, and VU is one of those calming things for the nervous system. But then also like, what are the external things like this or that supplement or, mineral? And I like to think the reason those things work is because we are believing in them, because we know from placebo studies that when people believe they're taking something that will affect their pain. I mean, they've even shown like greater pain relief if they believe the sugar pill is $1 versus if they believe it's 10 cents. So we have so much belief in these things, but when they don't work, that's actually, more evidence for us that it's just this nervous system stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm all for a good placebo, but if it's not working for you and you're spending a lot of money chasing all these things, that might lead to a nervous system state of you feeling more, frustrated or helpless, or right. So we want to see it from that lens of like,
Yeah.
how can we help the nervous system, which is the other thing you were saying too. You have tried some breathing, and that VU technique is really cool, you guys. It's by Peter Levine, Somatic Experiencing. So, but you also said like you're trying to sleep. So when we have this urgency, have you noticed how, like, especially when you're really needing sleep for some reason or really worried about getting sleep, that it's even harder to get?
Yes. And if I'm worried that I'm going to wake up on time, if I
Yeah.
do fall asleep,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. So that is usually the bigger picture going on. Our thoughts about sleep, our urgency about sleep, our emotions around sleep, right? So we want to just see, are we coming at it from, I love my body and rest is great. And even if I don't get it, I'll be a little tired, but it'll be okay. Or is it something more urgent, like I need to get sleep?
yeah, I try to do that. Let me know if this is, because I tell myself, half the time I don't get sleep and it hasn't killed me yet. I tell
Yeah.
myself those things in my mind. It
Yeah.
hasn't, I've not, since I was a child, I've had issues sleeping. It's like, and
Yeah.
I'm 6, hasn't killed me. So why
Yeah.
am I worried about it?
Yeah. And as you're saying that to yourself, what is the feeling that that creates?
Um, I think it's just going to my head. It's telling my head, you know, don't be dumb. It's,
And what feeling does that create? So I'm gonna, like, over the time we're coaching today, I'm gonna emphasize this a lot, because we want to know what we want to do, strategies, things we can take. But like you said, sometimes the Epsom salt bath works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's not the Epsom salt bath, it's
yeah,
our emotions and our
yeah.
thoughts.
And my feeling, I think, is frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Frustrated because it's like, come on, you've tried your whole life to figure it out. You're smart. Why haven't you figured it out? I
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling myself it hasn't killed you. It's not going to kill you. At least at least you have a bed. You're not homeless. At least you have blanket, comfortable pillow,
Okay.
and and yet I'm still frustrated thinking, boy, homeless people sometimes can sleep great.
Mhm.
Here you have all this and you're not.
Mhm. Okay. I want to ask a follow-up question then with that frustrated, because I like to look at the nervous system state, and we don't have to get like super technical about which state it is, but also knowing if it's more like an activated state or like a shutdown. So a lot of times when I hear people ask like, why don't you do this already? Why don't you figure this out? Why haven't you? It's a shaming statement. And
Yes.
shame is more in the category of shutdown and freeze. It's like hopeless and despair, and you feel more symptoms of tiredness and brain fog, and like that's more freeze. Or frustrated could also be like activated, like I've got to figure out a solution and desperate for finding the problems and fixing them and thinking of all the things and what resources could I Google. And
I think it's more activated, angry.
yeah. Yeah. So fight or flight. Yeah. Angry
Yeah.
is a fight. And then
Yeah.
flight is, since we're not really running from tigers in our modern society, flight is like perfectionism, trying to figure things out and never resting and being more, more diligent and sense of
I,
duty.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So no matter what you try, if you're coming from those states, it's not going to work. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not about what you do, because you could have an Epsom salt bath and be shaming yourself and be in freeze and why don't you ever figure this out, and everyone else gets it but you, and what's wrong with you, something's really wrong with you, that kind of talk. Just recognizing that it's freeze It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're nodding. Yeah. Anyone else like get like this where you're like, why can't you figure this out? And you know all this stuff and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot to just kind of being aware of what's going on, being able to label it, being mindful, talking about it, giving vocabulary and words to it. As we do with sensations of pain, you could do the same with sleeplessness or feelings of fatigue, other symptoms like that. So that would make sense that when you're more activated, that's going to be hard to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some urgency around needing sleep. And you might want to look at your stories of sometimes we can be really well-meaning about our health, but we can put ourselves into fear about not getting enough sleep because we know how rejuvenating and restoring sleep is. And so then we can really stress out that we're not getting sleep, but then we're not getting sleep, like we're driving less sleep, right? Yeah. So do you have any of those kind of stories that you can think of?
Um, uh, uh, because I worked for a naturopath for years, I know that sleep is like top. It's number
Yeah.
one. Probably what my brain is telling
Yeah. Hmm.
you yourself
Yes.
older and you're not going to get better because you're not,
Yes.
you got to figure this out.
Yes. Okay.
And my sister, who's been single most of her life and sleeps like a log still, and she's older than, she has all this dynamic energy. It's like
Mm-hmm.
also to people who do sleep well.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so I'm jealous of people who sleep.
Jealous. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So like even more like urgency around it. And you guys, I mean, I have been teaching yoga for a while and I have heard a study about yin yoga, and I don't want to misquote it, so I'm not, don't take this as exact, but there's something to like that restorative yoga, and 1 hour of restorative yoga is equal to 4 hours of sleep or something like that, right? So don't quote me on the number, but it is something like there are other ways of restoring and replenishing the body besides sleep. And
Yeah.
you could think of it as like even being in less of an agitated state in some of the day would be more beneficial than being so agitated about sleep and then not getting sleep. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of just
So
like expanding.
uh work on during the day,
Yeah.
getting it, and then let it go at night. What
Yes.
happens?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that because, yeah, what's happening at night is just kind of accumulation of what's been going on during the day, but we've been like distracted and not thinking about it. And then at night, we're able to just like, we're just alone with our thoughts and our, right, stress. So yeah, just anything you can do to soften that urgency around sleep. And as you said, it hasn't killed you yet. And that's a good place to start. But there might even be something a little more like encouraging that you're like, you know what? Some days I notice I get a lot of sleep and I'm still kind of like dragging. And sometimes I get very little sleep and I actually do fine. So it's
Good
less
point.
about the amount of sleep I get and more about, my attitude and yeah. Have you ever
Yeah.
just like fallen in love and you get like 2 hours of sleep and then the next day you're like, oh, I'm gonna go hike a mountain,
Good
right?
point.
So we
Good.
just, yeah, anything we can do to like
Let it go.
accept where we are, soften that, do any of that calming stuff during the day, and
I,
let go as much as you can at night of this like, this is the need and this is the way.
yeah.
Okay.
Super.
Oh, Renee, 1 30-minute yoga nidra meditation can be as restorative to the body as 3 hours of sleep. Also, I'm an instructor. Thank you so much, Renee. That was what it was. I was like, I don't want to, I knew I had it wrong, but it was something amazing
Wow.
like that. And yoga nidra meditations, go on YouTube and I bet you'd find 50 of them that you could just see which one you're drawn to, try it out.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I've heard about sleep, and I know we're kind of like, well, we're not even spending that much time on it, but I think it's so important because this is one of the areas that I see a lot of people have questions on, and maybe even like pain goes down, but then insomnia is kind of like a symptom imperative or extinction burst kind of symptom. So the other thing about sleep that I have heard from research is that, usually we've heard, I don't remember what it is again, like maybe it takes 2 hours to get into REM sleep. But when your body is sleep deprived, and you've maybe experienced this, when you just fall asleep, you can get right into a dream state. And so your body knows how to make up for the type of sleep that it's missing if it's needing it. Okay.
Nice. So trust my body.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
If it sleep, it'll get it.
Yes.
Trust.
Yes. If it needs sleep, it will get it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Trust my body.
Yeah.
It'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
Nice.
How does that feel? Yes, thank you. I think that was so good. I want to end with that, but also I just want to say, how does that thought feel versus it hasn't killed me yet?
Oh, the other feels like when I scolded my children or when I was yelled at as a child. The hasn't killed me yet is sarcastic, mean, snippy. And the trust your body makes me have goosebumps and want to cry and
Oh,
love and
oh,
it.
Love that.
I have chills all over.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Perfect.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And say that you are listening and you're like, okay, well, when I say trust my body, I don't have that reaction. That's okay. Like, start with where you are, right? And if you don't have that belief yet, eventually you'll get there if you want. But you know, this is a good example of the things you're telling yourself, and the way they make you feel is all the difference, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
All feelings. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even sometimes if I get up and have a tea, sometimes it'll give me energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't. It won't.
Yes.
That's placebo too. It's all about how.
Exactly. It is. Yep. We have a lot of predictive coding. We have our brain basically is constantly producing evidence for the beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
And that's with all of our symptoms. We're very good at saying, if I sit for this long, I know if I stand up, it will do this. And our brain just proves it right.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Love that. Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Okay. That was so good. Thank you so much. Let's move to, is it Yannicka? Is it
Yes, Yannicka.
Okay. I was going to say that's looking more like a Scandinavian name or something.
It's Dutch. I'm shocked you
Dutch?
got it on the first
What?
time. It's Dutch, and I'm
Mhm.
shocked you got it right on the first time.
Oh, I had this feeling. I don't know. I lived in Finland for a couple years, and so I was like, I don't know, that just looked more like not an American name to me. So, but it would be cute. Janica would be cute too. But so Yannicka.
Let me start by saying I have an appointment at 11 that I wasn't able to change, so I have to leave at about 10:40.
Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay.
But I do have a question. I've seen a lot on, in the groups or in the writings, about neuroplastic pain, and people will talk about the pain spiral, how you start thinking about the pain, and then the problem is you spiral out, like, oh my God, how is it going to get worse? Is it going to, how long is it going to be? Is my migraine going to be gone before my trip tomorrow, or whatever, this whole spiraling thing, and how that's kind of the issue, and people need to stop the pain spiral. And that's not my issue at all.
Okay.
Like, I don't, I'm not thinking about that. My issue is that the pain itself feels like a toddler, just like, hey, 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 what's going on? Hey, it just bugs me
Mhm.
all day long.
Yeah.
And if I don't take pain medication to stop that,
Mhm.
uh, not only am I annoyed, but then I can't be productive. I end up just going inward, leads to isolation, depression, just
Yeah.
it, that's a spiral down for me. So like, I mean, I'm doing other things. I use Nicole Sachs' method of journal speak and meditation.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna hopefully be working with a pain psychologist
Great.
soon. But I've had this information
Yeah.
since February of last year. I have zero doubt that I know all the signs of neuroplastic pain. I
Okay.
have them. I have zero doubt. That's not it, that I think it could be a structural issue. And I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, like I've tried somatic tracking,
Yeah.
that doesn't really work for me. And so if for me it's not about the pain spot, like how do you get rid of an annoying, someone just tapping on you, screaming in your face, like
Yeah.
in and of
Yeah.
itself is negative.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I guess it is kind of like that example of like what your mom might say if your brother is, keeps mimicking you or tapping you, and she would say like ignore it and it'll stop. Like eventually he'll stop. And so as we were talking about with the emotion before, when you're having an emotional reaction to the pain that is driving it more, so any of the fear-based reactions including frustration, so frustration, annoyance, anger about the pain, those are still going to drive more pain because it's still putting attention on the pain, right? It's like the brother keeps tapping you and you keep saying, stop it, mom, make him stop, right? And he keeps doing it because he's getting such a good reaction, right? So actually we know from neuroscience and neuroplasticity, when we react to it more neutrally, then it produces it less and less. The brain will extinguish that behavior, that symptom. So more neutrally reacting to it. How does that sound?
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've tried to do, I mean, I'm caught between two things. Like, yes, I've tried to just ignore it or meditate or whatever, but then it's still escalates. And so then I take medication so I can like get on with my day and not
Mm-hmm.
just have this take over my day.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other thought is like, I thought our pain is trying to tell us something, like it's
Mm-hmm.
trying to give us a message. And I understand sometimes it could be a false alarm signal.
Yeah.
Um, I've done those exercises on the
Mhm.
Curable app where it's like stop and like listen to your pain and ask like what are you trying to tell me, and like I'm listening, like
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
get it.
Yeah.
So I'm just, yeah, I'm definitely frustrated, that's for
Yeah.
sure, because it's been, uh, well more than a year and a half of like knowing this information and trying all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
I also keep getting hit with crazy life stressors. Like
Oh,
this has been the
yeah.
most insane year, and like I can't even recover from one, and then
Yeah.
I get hit with another, and so then that
Okay.
exacerbates the pain. But you're saying, okay, if it feels like some annoying, little brother just tapping and just try to ignore it, but then we should also try to ask the pain what it's trying to tell us. Like I'm a little
Mm.
confused on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah. Okay. So, that thought that the pain is trying to tell us something can be super helpful. And it can also put us into more of that flight state I was talking about earlier, where we're like, I've got to figure it out. And then we start thinking, there's this thing that I'm missing and I just haven't figured it out yet. So, as you said, there's a lot of life stressors and you're feeling more pain. Your body's probably telling you you're stressed from the stressors. Like that's probably safe to bet that enough, or that would be enough. Does that make sense? First of all, but that question of like, how do I ignore it versus how do I pay attention to it, to ask this, like to get this answer from it? That's a great question. And that's your main question, right? It's like, yeah. So, mainly, like if we think of somatic tracking, it doesn't even necessarily have to be ignoring it. It can be mindful of it, but it's just not exaggerating it or pushing it aside. It's just being mindful of what's there in the present moment. So maybe honestly, the best thing is to just do a little somatic tracking with you. And because you said you haven't really had an experience where it seemed helpful or useful. Is that
I've
fair to
tried
say?
it several times, probably 4 times,
Okay.
and it didn't. I think even sometimes it made the pain worse because I was focusing on it.
Yes. Yeah. And so that might kind of produce some either like fear or not wanting to do that again when you're like, okay, it has this possibility of making the pain worse. And that wasn't fun. Okay. So, but somatic tracking is really, I was rereading The Way Out as I was doing this book club. And he said this is I think the word was like linchpin, this is like the main tool of pain reprocessing therapy. And it can look kind of different in different ways. It can be kind of a fluid thing. You could do it for 5 seconds as you're just like, oh, it feels like a inflated balloon, versus like, oh, there's my IBS. What did I eat? Right. So it could be just some kind of different reaction. If you think of neuroplasticity, your neural pathways are really strong about having a symptom and frustration. And we want to train new neural pathways, symptom and curiosity and lightheartedness and fascination and neutrality. Just neutral would be so much better because then the brain will start to produce it less. But at first it can produce it more. And you guys, just in general, we'll go through this, but if pain ever increases when you're doing somatic tracking, one thing that's really nice to do is find a place in your body that feels less tense or feels more relaxed or feels good, like maybe focusing on the breath or focusing on your earlobe. So lean into something that's positive. And that can be a good strategy when the pain goes up. Because when the pain goes up and you can still remain neutral, that is powerful. Then your brain is like, okay, I guess this is pointless. I'm not getting a reaction anymore. What do you think?
I guess I just keep going back to like, how does anyone ignore someone tugging on their shirt and like I
Yeah. Well, good
just
point.
don't get how to
Yeah.
ignore that.
Yeah.
Like in reality and also as a metaphor to pain.
Yeah, totally. So, and I'm going to bring up another point from the book that I think this is a good point to bring up for everyone, is that when the pain is like an 8, 9, or 10, you may react differently than when it's like a 1 or 2 or 3. Okay. So even just giving yourself that grace that sometimes you're not going to have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity to calmly react in this Zen way. Sometimes you are, and other times you're going to watch a TV show and get distracted, or you're going to lay down and take a nap. Like avoidance behaviors are totally okay to use and definitely part of this work. But I think a lot of us have judgment about avoidance behaviors. And, one of my questions to you is actually, if you do have kind of emotions or judgment about taking the medication, because that's a great avoidance behavior that if you really believe it's going to work for you, I see it like training wheels. It calms your nervous system as you're doing this work to have something that, if the pain gets really bad and you take this, it's going to work for you. But what do you think about, I kind of put a few things out there. There's the different ways to react to pain depending on how intense it is. You guys all got that, yeah? And then I guess that question to you is like, that could be something for you to think about with the medication. If there's feelings about that are conflicting, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be off medication. I don't,
Mm.
like I've dealt with chronic pain for so long,
Yeah.
and I just don't, but I also feel like those are my choices. Either
Yeah.
don't take the medication and I'm lying at home in pain,
Yeah.
and it gives me tunnel vision. I cannot, suddenly all I see is problems with
Yeah.
no solutions, and
Yeah.
then I'll give in, I'll take some pain medication, and then suddenly it's like, oh, first of all, that's not even that bad. Second of all, here's the 3 ways that I can resolve that issue, no problem. Like, so
Mhm.
I take it because I want to get on with my life and I don't want to get
Yeah.
in this dark
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But in general, I mean, I wasn't on pain medication
Yeah.
before. Now it's like a part of my daily life, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for my body. And I mean, I have had blood work and stuff. There's nothing,
Okay. Yeah.
so, but it just in
Okay.
general,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
want to be a healthy person that doesn't need all of that.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of like our first question, like I really want to sleep, or like eventually I want to get off of the pain medication. The way to doing that is going to be through accepting where you are. I don't need the sleep. I don't need to get it off it as much. So just maybe that's something even for you to dive deeper into with your journaling, is kind of the judgments you have about yourself with the pain medication. Because even cleaning up your thoughts about that and taking it with that, like, okay, this is just training wheels, no, judgment that I'm taking it still. This is still the path, I'm still like doing this other work too. Does that make sense? Kind of cleaning up
Yeah.
that would be more neutral than taking it and feeling bad about doing it.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Well, and also, like, now that you say it, I'm like, I'm on a quarter of what I was taking 2 years ago. I was
Oh my
like, years
gosh.
ago, I couldn't even drive. And so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of forget
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah.
I've made progress, but like, there's that feeling of like, oh, I thought I'd be done with this by now.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Exactly. The
right.
frustration. Yeah.
Judgments.
Yeah, judgments leading to more emotions of frustration. Your brain is really, those neural pathways of frustration are just really, really strong. So even just being like, there's my brain getting frustrated again, even just observing it and labeling it and
Mhm.
just being the observer of, oh, how often I go into frustration. It makes sense that I go into frustration, and, you know, like soothing yourself from there, right? Like it makes sense that I'm doing that. And well, yeah. How does that land?
Yeah. No,
I
and also like I think radical acceptance, like just
Yeah.
accept where I
Yes.
am, and then
Yes. Yeah.
um yeah, and I'm gonna work on ignoring the annoying, you
Yeah.
know.
Let's do it. We have 4 minutes. Let's do some somatic tracking right now. Does that sound
Oh,
good?
okay.
Let's do
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do it. I think we can do things very quickly when we just, give ourselves a little space like this. So I love a quick little demo like this. Okay. So go ahead and close your eyes and get as comfortable as you can. If you ever need to open your eyes, you can, but it's nice to keep them closed just to keep that connection with the body. And you can start by just noticing your breath, noticing where you feel it in your body. Maybe you feel it behind your nose or throat or chest. Just noticing the speed, noticing if you want to judge yourself. Sometimes we see we're doing a fast, shallow breath and think we should do it differently. So this is not the place for any kind of judgment. It's just curiosity, fascination. It's like laying on your back and watching the clouds in the sky. So with that kind of lightheartedness and curiosity, I want you to just scan your body, starting from head to toe, noticing the places that get your attention. And then there might be several. So just notice right now in this moment, what place in your body gets your attention the very most. You can tell me that.
My right hip and my right piriformis muscle.
Okay. And the hip and piriformis, does it seem like they're both the same, like the same kind of description and quality of sensation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like
Okay.
an aching.
Aching. Okay. So it's the hip, like joint, or the front or the back or the whole hip.
It goes around from the front, around the side to the back, not in the middle of my back, but like kind of
Mhm.
close, like
Okay.
a hook, like a U shape around my head.
Okay. So it's like a U shape
Mhm,
and it's aching.
mhm.
And as you imagine that, do you imagine that that U-shaped thing has any movement to it, like a wad of energy, or is it just kind of like a dense, solid type of object?
Solid,
Solid, not moving. Okay. Does it have a temperature?
neutral.
Okay. So it's like a U shape and going from the front to the back, and it's dense and solid, not moving. Don't really see a color to it. And does it have a temperature?
That was neutral.
Neutral as
I
well.
don't think you didn't ask me color before.
Did I ask did I ask temperature twice?
That's temperature twice.
Oh, that's
Trying
funny.
to
I like
is,
thought something different in my head than what came out apparently.
um, I don't know what this means, but the color that popped in my head was orange.
Orange. Okay. Yeah. That is right. Yeah, I thought color and then I was like, sometimes people don't see color and I'll start with a easier one. So temperature neutral, color maybe orange, just kind of like popped in my head. So that's the kind of stuff I like where it's just like I don't know why I'm thinking it, but okay. So it's orangish and there's no movement to it. Do you get a sense of like what texture it could be made of? Like if you imagined it was made of rock or cement or wood or like a hard plastic or a dense rubbery plastic, like how would you describe the texture of it?
Maybe like a dense metal piece that's in my body, but it's not cold or hot. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Is it like a shiny metal?
yes.
Mhm.
What do you call that? Almost like brushed metal, where it's kind of
Mhm.
half and half, not matte, but not shiny, but in the middle.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's like this hard, solid metal, and the sensation there is achy. Doesn't really have a temperature, and it's orange. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So that in it and of itself is rewiring the brain as we talk about it, as we give this sensation some different, you know, intent and curiosity, and we talk about it like that, give it words. But I like to also add, and I've seen Alan Gordon do this too, like kind of science experiments, playing around with it. So this part, oh, actually, did you say you need to go right now?
At about 10:40. Yeah.
Okay. Darn it. Took too long getting into that. And I may do this as a demo with someone later, but things you could do is like breathing into that area and see, does the color change? Does the texture change? But already, was that a little different than what you've experienced with somatic tracking?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I've done guided ones before, but I feel like the fact that it's like live
Yeah.
felt different
Yeah.
versus like listening
Yeah.
to a recording.
Yeah. I think someone holding space for you, it helps to open up, your receptivity. Or if you think about it, like if you do an exercise video on YouTube versus you have a personal trainer, you just have a little different like effect. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's why I'm seeking out the pain
Yeah.
psychologist. Like
Great.
I
Yeah.
try to do all these things on my own and I'm still going to keep doing them, but I do feel like I need some like real support. And I've had other therapists and trauma therapists and all that stuff, but someone who specializes in
Yes.
this. So I'm,
Yes.
yeah.
Good. Yep. Find it wherever you can, you guys. There's always resources. There are new people wanting to practice. I offer deals all the time here and there. So do it. Yeah.
All
All
right. Well,
right.
thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
me. I'm
Good
sorry I
to-
have to run.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. To be continued, hopefully sometime. But yeah, keep
I
keep
really
on with
appreciate
that.
it.
Get as
Thank
neutral as
you.
you can. You'll get it.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It'll go faster than you think.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. You're welcome. All right, Karen, you're next.
Hi.
Hi.
Can turn my video on for a moment. Hi.
Hi.
I am just really thankful for you doing this pre-coaching today. It's great. I've never seen your work before. A friend just like forwarded me the link and was like, try this.
Hey.
Yeah, and I have COVID right now, so
Hmm.
yeah, we'll just see how this goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been well versed in mind body stuff for a few years. I think it's been 3 years that I've been really debilitated with mind body symptoms.
Hmm.
And yeah, so what I wanted to talk about is a phenomenon that I've been noticing a lot. Like my worst symptoms are like basically very prolonged injuries. And then I have other mind body symptoms that are a lot easier for me to manage, like the ones that don't affect my mobility. I'm a lot more able to not catastrophize about and just stay relaxed about. So, one I wanted to share and then get your feedback on is that I get UTIs whenever my boyfriend and I have a particular type of disagreement or boundary crossing. Um, and like I've done antibiotics and supplements and all these things, and then not until him and I have multiple conversations where I actually feel really witnessed and finally feel really heard, and like we'll have to do it every night until we get to the bottom of it, and then the symptoms just go away.
Wow.
And it's happened like 4 times now, where now if I get a UTI, it's like, okay, we gotta have these conversations again. And so that's like proof, right? That I have I have TMS, I have mind body symptoms. However, what this has really created a conflict in me about is these other long-standing, like kind of soft tissue injury symptoms.
Yeah.
I know the emotional trauma that has preceded these injuries and
Oh, yeah.
contributed to, like, I think my nervous system being dysregulated and them lasting for so long. But no matter how much therapy I've done or how much I've like worked on these emotional traumas, like people who, have hurt me, I'm not talking to these people, right? They're not going to be able to sit down with me the way my boyfriend does and like really hear the way they've impacted me and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, how the F do I resolve this stuff? And I think like, and it's complex because yeah, if I see a UTI symptom go away by just working on it emotionally, that's great. I've also had other random symptoms that I'm able to just, this is mind body, like I'm not really giving it any attention, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And I'm really stuck with these long-standing soft tissue injuries.
Yeah. Okay. Well, definitely when the brain believes, this is a quote by Alan Gordon, when the brain believes the body is damaged, it responds with pain. So even calling it a soft tissue injury could be why your brain keeps making pain. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I can work on like just trying to make my brain understand that I'm no longer injured. I mean, I did just get this injury like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so let's not take that one, but let's take another one that's like more than 6 months old. And if you want, we don't have to, like if it feels personal, but like telling me, because sometimes we say I was injured and it'll be someone who says like, yes, I was injured on this like RV ride. And then 2 weeks later, my back really hurt. You know what I mean? So let's just go to one of your cases as an example to just kind of see how we can train the brain to see it differently rather than, I mean, and maybe it is an injury that's, long since healed, but either way, calling it an injury, 10 or 20 times a day or once a day even, your brain will produce pain as it expects to.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, let's go with my toe. It's my
Okay.
big toe on the right side. I did fracture it last summer. And off and on, what happens is I'll slip, and because I live on a hill where you hike in, and I'll slip and then it'll get hyperextended, or it'll jostle, and then I'm back in the boot again. And that's the pattern. I'll slip, and and then I'll just say, nope, I'm fine, and I'll keep walking, and then within a day, like, it'll just be like, fuck, I'm not fine, excuse my language. So I'm in a boot again. I'm doing somatic tracking. I'm focusing on staying positive, doing the best I can, trying to have fun.
Okay,
at
so
the
when
same
was the last
time.
time that you slipped and that happened?
Yeah, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay. And when that has happened, do you ever get like imaging on it to see that there is stuff? Like, what kind of evidence do you have of injury versus neuroplastic pain?
Well, I'm getting imaging tomorrow. I haven't, I'm actually getting, seeing my podiatrist tomorrow. The toe is purple, like, but it's been that way for over a year. Since I got a steroid injection after the original injury. The first x-ray I got had no fracture the day it happened, and then 3 months later it was still hurting, so I got another x-ray, and then there was a fracture that showed up. So, and that, it's fascinating, actually. Like 3 weeks after the original injury, it was like fine, I was walking on it, and then I'm a massage therapist. Totally, yeah, it was like healing, and it was fine. And then a massage therapist just like barely pulled on my toe, and that set me off again. And that's when I got imaging again and saw that there was a fracture. So I did a bone stimulator, and then the fracture healed. And that was, so the fracture is closed, but the fracture should be closed as of like 10 months. And then just 3 weeks ago, before I slipped, I was going to the gym 3 times a week, and it was like a miracle. And I felt like myself again, and it was amazing. And then, I slipped, and it jostled the joint, and I tried to tell myself it was fine.
Did you feel something at the time, or was it after?
Right in the moment. Yeah, I felt a little bit of a joint like pop, and I was like, no big deal. It's totally fine. That should be fine.
And you felt it before, and it's had this pain effect before? This is not the first time the hyperextension has happened, or?
It's happened multiple times.
Multiple times. Okay.
Yeah, I've been in and out of the boot, like, over and over and over again.
Okay. And when, like, so this last time, like, you haven't had the imaging done yet, and do you just go to doing the boot because that's like the protocol, or do you go and get it checked out or anything like that? It's fine either way. I'm just curious. I'm just gathering information.
Yeah, it's been both. It's like I'll go to my podiatrist, and he doesn't really have much to offer me at this point,
So he thinks it like has hyperextended, and that's why you're feeling the pain?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like floppy. My toe is super weak. It's actually looks floppy and purple.
Just trying to see what, like, what from the medical end they are saying, and what information has been gathered, and what diagnoses you've been given or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. And
so when you were going to the gym 3 times a week or whatever before, was it also purple and floppy then too? Or no?
Yes. it's not like fully healed, but I get to a point where I can walk, 20 minutes and go to the gym and wear normal shoes, and I still feel the feeling that it has to be protected, and
Mhm.
I've wanted to move away from that feeling. um yeah, and I think a struggle of mine with these like injuries from the past is yeah, overprotection fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have there ever been any times in the time since it happened that you said it first became like purple? That was last year, right? Or was it before that, the very first?
Yes, after
So have there ever
no, it was after what's the question?
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Oh, just like we always like to ask, have there ever been times that you've noticed it different than, what you expect? Like maybe you were on vacation or you had a really like, blissful week in some way. You were, went to a retreat or something. Have you ever had any since the
Yeah.
purple floppiness?
So
Has been a change.
yeah,
Right.
it's so funny because that has not been the case, but I was just in England last week for a wedding,
Mhm.
and I went to go see a sacred site, and like literally I had 24 hours of painlessness in my toe, and
Mm.
my boyfriend literally cried. He was like, "What is going on?" And
Okay.
I was like, "I
Okay.
don't know, this is so crazy."
Yeah.
And then it came back within a day. But it was like a miracle. So that was really cool.
Wow. Okay. So besides the
Yeah.
pain freeness, I keep making up words, pain freeness. Um, was there a change in the purple and the floppiness that day? Or was it also purple still and floppy?
No, probably not. Probably not.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe if we can even like, because what we want to do is create an environment of less fear for your brain about these symptoms, let's say, or
Yeah.
symptoms. And let's try to not use the word injuries. I mean, it's justified to use it. I'm not saying, you're inaccurate or whatever, or you are. I don't know.
Right.
I have my own thoughts, right? But I don't know. But just calling them symptoms is much more neutral than like pain or, injury.
Mm.
So where was I going with that? I'll check in with you. What are you thinking right now? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. I guess I wonder if you have any advice about how I take that 24 hours of strange painlessness, and use that to my advantage
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what do you think about it? I'm curious. What do you make of it?
There's two feelings. One is like, wow, that's so exciting that that can just happen. Um, and then the other is like, ugh, I'm so frustrated. I feel like I have no control over this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because last time it got better, it's not because I don't feel like I did anything like to make it better. It was just like, cool. I stayed in the boot for a few weeks and then tried my orthotics and was able to walk again. That's kind of how it's been. It's like I just
Mm.
try when I feel safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, what to make of it? That's your question, like, or how to use it to your advantage. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So first of all, just seeing that that's like such good evidence that it's neuroplastic, right? That's one of those classic signs that it's like, if there was something structurally really, really wrong, and you could say, well, it was still purple and it was still floppy, but I think we could just like even accept that maybe, and maybe even if it was like it was still like that but pain free or less pain, that we'd still feel like that was a win or that you're on the right track. And then some of those things do change over time. People with CRPS, like color and swelling and atrophy even change as they do this process. So I would say that's great evidence that it's neuroplastic, and that could be used, like remembering what that feeling was. Like, how can you describe that to me that day that you were there and you were just feeling like whatever you were feeling, amazed or joyful or have gratitude or what?
Yeah, that would be a really powerful stretch practice, but I think really helpful. It was amazed, elated, thankful, touched, inspired, it was all of that. And as you're talking, I'm just making a connection that, yeah, floppy does not equal pain.
Yeah.
Purple doesn't equal pain.
Yeah.
It's just purple.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's really good. Yeah, it doesn't have to equal pain. And that I think will change over time as well. I would not be surprised. But right now, there is so much fear and so much story about it being an injury and damaged and all of that, that it's hard for your brain to let its guard down and feel normal about it and feel neutral about it. Because even before the slipping, there was this kind of sense of like, it's still not quite 100%, right? Didn't you say something like that? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said even before or no, or just
it felt fine. It felt
okay.
It felt fine until
but it was still
yeah,
purple.
until it was it's been purple since I got a steroid injection last summer. So it's just from that. It's just
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not a big deal. It should be fine.
Yeah, I think
Actually.
I heard, and I don't want to just like, maybe you were saying from after, but something about it, like, it's just not all the way healed. And then this happened or something like that. So it's kind of like this sense of it
Right.
hasn't really been healed since last year. And now I've like re-injured it. So does that make sense? There's still this perception. So that's something you can just observe that you're doing and label that, and oh, there's my brain thinking it's damaged again, and that high guard. I mean, I think most of the time when we have, I'm going to tell you an example that I think will relate. Like I had a client that was a physician, so she knows all about anatomy and all this stuff. She heals her back pain, she starts doing Pilates, and then one day she's like, oh, I legitimately just pulled a muscle, right? Like she's like, not a big deal, I'm reacting to it so calmly, I used to freak out. And I'm like, well, that's good, but like, let's just even question that that's an injury, right? Because we know our brain communicates with our nervous system and our fascia, and we have these neural pathways that are strong, and our brain can create a muscle pull in a certain area, or it can create an imbalance, or, our brain can do that. So I start coaching her. And by the end, she's like, yeah, I think I had plans to go golfing this afternoon. So I think I'm still going to go golfing. And even I was like, okay, that seems a little weird for your back. Like I was surprised, like I would not have suggested that. But since she was on board with it, I was like, great, it sounds fun to you, go do it. And she emails me later that day and said, my back pain's gone. Right. And so she that morning thought it was an injury. And then by the afternoon was golfing pain-free. So sometimes there may be injuries, legit. Okay. That is granted. I'm not saying everything is mind body and right. But I do think it's probably like 80 to 90 to 99%, right? Like of the stuff that goes on is because of our own fear of, things happening, we're not strong enough. And then we kind of like that predictive coding. We're in such high guard that we trip or we walk differently, and you know what I mean? Does that land?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it does. It's like, yes. I mean, this particular injury here, I was packing for a trip I didn't want to go on.
Oh, yeah.
And I was closing the garment bag, and it ricocheted, and it felt like literally it broke my finger. And I know my finger's not broken, but it is swollen, and I've been treating it like a tendon sprain. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get imaging on it, and then if the imaging is fine, I'm gonna treat it like my body. Like my body just was like, I don't want to go on this trip. So
Right. That is interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, just look for those little subtle ways that you're still creating fear by, you know, thinking of it as an injury or something unhealed.
yeah,
And maybe even just that possibility of, well, obviously, I know that if it could be pain free for 24 hours when I'm in this blissful state, then obviously nothing structurally is causing that pain, but there's a lot of expectation of it. I would do graded exposure is a great way to anticipate moving without pain. Visualizing is so powerful, you guys. They did a study where they casted people's arms and had them imagine weightlifting, but they couldn't actually activate their muscles because they were immobilized. But by imagining lifting weights, they not only did not atrophy, but they gained strength. So when we are talking about graded exposure, it is really powerful. And you want to combine it with that positive emotion. You want to feel all of those great emotions that you just told me. That's like your playlist, right? You want to like feel that as much as you can and imagine
yeah,
that. And your brain, when it starts to think that your foot is stronger and safer and your toe is healthy, won't produce that pain. Does
yeah.
that make sense?
Absolutely. It really does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad. These are great questions, you guys. And for every one that asks a question, I'm sure there's like at least 10 other people that will watch this that have a similar question. Please try to apply it to what your question is too. And that can be a good way of actively learning. Okay, those are all the hands that are raised for right now. Does anyone else like want coaching? There's also some questions I can answer, but I want to give you live people a chance if anyone, has a question that needs to jump off. I'm not seeing any hands unless I'm missing them. I can only see some names. Okay. What I'm going to do then, oh, actually, yay, we have one. So it's probably either Kara or Kara. Two ways of saying that. How do you say your name?
It's Kara.
Kara. Okay. Hey, Kara. Good to meet you.
Hi, nice meeting you too. I'm sitting kind of in the world of our gal that had to leave, Yannicka.
Yeah.
Like I've known about TMS, mind body since I don't know, summer 2020.
Mhm.
My symptoms that I had already been dealing with for several years got worse in that year. And Google caught up with me and gave me an advertisement for Curable. So I tried Curable, and then I tried a group coaching session
Yeah.
through Menda, which is Les Aria's program.
Okay.
No progress.
No.
I tried journaling on my own. I tried working myself through Howard Schubiner's Unlearn Your Pain.
Oh, yeah.
And then after the group coaching program didn't seem to help me, I tried, okay, I'm just moving on with my life. I'm going to join a gym and do some really hard stuff at a gym and
How'd that go?
ignore this. And yeah, I tried the ignore, like my body is healthy, I'm strong, I'm amazing, all those things. And I'm still struggling like quite a bit with symptoms. So
okay. So just to clarify,
that wasn't a question.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay. I'll just start asking you some questions and we'll like fill it in. So my question is like, did you ever see any of those little glimmers or signs of it working? Or like we just said earlier, like when you're on vacation or something, have you ever had any of those moments of like less symptoms than you expected?
Yeah, I definitely have had moments that's happened, and I'm like, okay, I know, I have the confirmation from my mind and my body that this absolutely is TMS.
Okay.
Like, and I actually had a couple appointments with Dr. Sarno. I mean, excuse me, not Sarno.
Oh.
Strax.
Oh, awesome.
And
yeah. Okay.
basically talked with him about my history and my symptoms, and he was like, absolutely, this no doubt whatsoever that this is TMS. This is my body. It's just I haven't found the right recipe for my particular healing needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So this is probably an annoying question, but I think everyone has their own best insight. So if you had to guess what you think it is that's missing, like if you could just, you had to guess something, what would you think?
Something that's missing.
Or maybe just that thought that something's missing is
Yeah, well,
that's kind of what you brought. So that's what I'm saying.
Sometimes I do feel like maybe I'm not journaling about the right things.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
yeah.
So like maybe I'm not honed in on the correct emotion. Like, I mean, I did discover, like, I had no idea that I had anger towards my father. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so I did discover there was something there that I was unaware of, but still, I think there's this nagging little thing, like, well, maybe there's something more that's missing. Like maybe I'm okay. So I discovered I'm angry at dad. Maybe there's something else. Like, what should I be taking out of the reservoir, as Cole says, you got to empty that reservoir. I'm like, okay, well, I found the anger. There's got to be something else there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. Just kind of that idea of like, I found something that I didn't know was there. And so since I still have pain, maybe there's more there that I'm just not knowing. And that is one way to think of it for sure. But I love how with the way out in PRT, it's just simply decreasing those like fear-based anxious thoughts, and frustrations is included, frustration, discouragement, fear, any of those, and increasing those messages of safety. So maybe there's one of those two areas that feels like could use a little more support. What do you think? Decreasing messages anxiety, increasing safety.
I do feel like sometimes when I'm trying to increase feelings of safety, that seems a little fake to me.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, as my 39-year-old self, I do believe that I've created a world of safety that is satisfying to me. But I think my inner self probably isn't totally on board with that yet. And when I try and even like journal about that, like, I'm safe now, it's okay, we can let go of these symptoms. Like, that doesn't always feel true.
I'm wondering if you might want to do some somatic work. Would that be okay if we do that?
Yeah, we can.
Just like what? Okay, I feel like I don't want to twist your arm. What just happened there?
I mean, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay. And here's my reasoning behind it, if that helps. I think that what I'm wanting, if we can, is to explore your sensations more neutrally, which is always good for everyone. And then really lean into what that feeling of safety does feel like somatically, because it might be hard to just tell yourself. And a lot of people have a disconnect with telling themselves, but not believing it. So I think it would be helpful for a lot of people, not just you, because that is something that we can find somatically or work on developing. And that can be an in when our brain isn't on board. Does that make sense? We could approach it bottom up through the body. Does that make sense?
I don't know yet.
Okay. what I would love to hear what's going on in your brain if you feel comfortable telling me.
I guess I'm just feeling some nervousness about being in the room full of strangers and
Oh,
exploring something that is sensitive.
okay. And
Just
if you don't feel
just
comfortable,
because I'm you know, obviously when you've been in pain for so long, it's very emotional. So
yeah. Well, definitely no pressure. This is a safe place if you do want to, we can hold space for you. And I think everyone that is here has struggled in their own ways and is just like sending you so much love. There's hearts on the screen, and it can be a really healing thing to be seen by compassionate witnesses. That's how they say, you heal trauma is through being seen by a compassionate witness. But also like your nervous system is your nervous system, and we don't want to like stress it out excessively. If you're more comfortable with a private session, there's options for those as well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I can explore.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
And only say, you just feel like you can only, if you only want to, you can keep details vague. We're just gonna, like we did before, we're gonna go into color and shape and
Yeah.
right. So yeah, I think it'll actually feel a lot safer than you think, but everyone is sending you love and support. So we're here for you. And anyone that wants to do this along, just go ahead and get comfortable for yourself, and you can start to close your eyes and notice your breath. And you guys, emotions, when crying or other emotions like that come up, it is relieving. It's relieving pressure. It's what's the word? It's regulating your nervous system to do activities like crying. Okay. So it's not like this big, like shameful thing. Like I cry so much. So hopefully if anyone's feeling conflicted about crying, they know that crying is just part of this like relief process. So you start by just noticing your breath, just kind of tuning into what's in your body, noticing things through the sensations and through the images of your mind. Maybe you could try taking a longer exhale. So as you breathe in, just a normal breath in. And then as you breathe out, just taking a little longer to take that breath out and slow it down just a little. If you ever feel forced with my cues, just let me know. It's not forceful. We can do other things. We don't want to overwhelm the nervous system. We're just here to watch it like we're scuba diving, right? We're just watching these fish. We're not trying to go and chase them. So go ahead and scan from head to toe, noticing the different areas that get your attention. And maybe it's the area that, you have your main issues with, and maybe it's another sensation in the chest because of an emotion or whatever. So whatever is coming to you right now, what's the most prevalent area of your body getting your attention?
I mean, it's a competition between my head and my shoulder.
Okay.
I feel like they're like, no, I need more attention. And then the other
Oh, okay. There's time for both. We'll get to both. So knowing that, who's gonna be the dominant one?
the head.
The head. Okay.
Is,
So I want you to just describe how much space that's taking up. Is it like the whole head, or just the front, or just one side?
left side, like corner, kind of like here, and like maybe close to tennis ball size.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it that shape, like a round ball? Does it have another shape?
No, I almost feel like it's kind of like a lava lamp.
Mm-hmm.
The shape like kind of ebbs and flows. It doesn't stay round, but it could be round at times, but it kind of moves.
Yeah. Okay. Is it moving slowly or quickly?
Quickly.
Does it have like a lot of energy to it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's busy.
It's busy. Okay. Yeah. And what kind of, let's see, temperature? Does it have a temperature at all?
I guess it's kind of warm.
Kind of warm. And
Yeah.
color?
I would say it's red.
Red. So it's red, kind of warm, really busy, lots of energy. Do you get a sense of the texture, like what it's made of?
Like it's kind of fuzzy.
Fuzzy. So like a bunch of like quick moving little molecules, or like fuzzy, like, I don't know, cotton candy, or I'm trying to think of like, or like a dog, like fuzzy.
So do you know one of those like old, like an Etch-a-Sketch where you
Oh
can use
yeah.
magnets to
Yeah.
like move
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
almost seems like it could be fuzzy, but it also could be kind of sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. Like those little iron filings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I guess that's more sharp, but like
Yeah.
from a child's eye, it almost seems like innocently it could be fuzzy.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. And then it's warm and red. Okay. So one thing that we could try, I love this time as like some little science experiments. So we're not like, okay, brain, we're going to fix you. We're just like, how could I, what would be playful and kind of fun to imagine, or soothing to imagine? So when there's a lot of energy like that, I love to imagine, or have you imagine, either like opening some valve, maybe it's at the base of your skull, or opening a door. Maybe there's a door or a window right there. You just roll down or you open, and just see what comes to your mind to imagine, and then give that a breath or two to imagine if that, maybe those iron filings are able to like dissolve or come out or dissipate or spread.
Well, it's not in my imagination, but for some reason it's very windy here today. And
Oh,
I imagine then me opening my sliding glass door and they just blowing away with the wind outside.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So just letting it kind of, that fresh wind just kind of blow through and cleanse, and maybe even imagine that like fresh air scent. And how does that feel?
I mean, that imagining that feels good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does it change?
If I could bring that to fruition, um, not forcefully, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you are right now. I mean, you are in this moment. You're like imagining it, and your brain has a hard time knowing what's real and what's not. So the more we can imagine it, it just primes your brain for like, this is okay. This can be reality for me. So just seeing how it goes in these little moments. This is rewiring your brain. Even doing this and doing it over and over will even reinforce that, but just giving it some new neural pathways to play with, like a roadblock of the old ones, and just some new stuff to play with. So how are you picturing it now? Or is the shoulder getting your attention more? We can go to that if it's moved.
Um, it seems smaller now,
Okay.
and yeah, I guess the shoulder is more obvious now that the head
Okay.
pain, the head sensations are shrinking just a little bit.
Okay. So let's go to the shoulder, but we may go back to the head if that like starts keeping up again. Okay. So, or piping up, I guess that's, I was like, what is that word? Yeah. So, the shoulder, how could you describe that to me?
It's like a lump
Like the
of
whole shoulder, or the front or the back, or
on the back, and then it kind of creeps up into my neck,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it grasps my neck and kind of like pulls it down.
Mm. Is it like a constant grasping and pulling, or does it kind of come in waves?
Um, right now it feels constant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it's like a grasping, pulling. Any other words you'd use for the sensation of it? A lump, you said.
It's pulsing a bit. It's warm.
Uh-huh, warm. Is the pulsing continuous or irregular?
It's continuous.
Is it fast or slow?
Um, it's slow.
Mm-hmm. And do you imagine a color?
Maybe like purpley blue.
Okay. So it's like warm, tight, grasping, pulsing, purpley blue. It's like a slow, constant pulse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like this lump. Can you get a sense of the texture, like what it's made of, that lump?
Like almost like it's soft, like Play-Doh, but the interior is hard. But the exterior is something that you could mold.
Interesting.
But you get blocked by a hard interior.
Well, maybe what we could start with is imagining having you say to this, to yourself, to this area, I see you. I see you've been trying to protect me. If that feels true, it's possible you've been trying to protect me for a long time. So I see that, and I'm just here to observe that right now. And you can notice how that feels with that acceptance of that area, giving it permission to be there right now. Yeah. And then you can notice if, like those science experiments, if there's something that might happen to change this area that would soothe. So maybe you're adding some cool breath to that area as you breathe in, because it's kind of warm, and maybe even imagine what color you would want that area to be. If it's purplish blue, what color you'd want it. Imagine that breath as you're breathing in, just visualizing. Does it go around that area? Does it go through it? Does it change the color? Does it change the temperature? Does it, just bounce right off and do nothing? Just notice what happens. How does that go?
I tried to visualize it white, but it seemed like the white like couldn't reach it.
That's okay.
Like what you said, it bounced right back off and did nothing.
Yeah. Okay, no worries. All right. So again, we're just like, oh, no problem. We're just doing little science experiments. So that's what we know. We'll try something else and just be curious maybe about, what might feel better to that area. If it's really dense, maybe there's more movement or softening, and you imagine what might facilitate that. If there's a metaphor with tightening and pulling, maybe you see how you imagine it. Is it like a couple of hands pulling at different directions? Does it feel like it's squishing? Does it feel like a vice grip? Like how, kind of seeing how you imagine it, like a knotted up thing. How do you imagine it?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like hands that have a tight grip on me.
A tight grip. Yeah. Yeah. And can you show me with a hand motion in real life? You can keep your eyes closed, but just imagine you could do that grip in real life with your hands and show me.
Yeah, like it's pulling me down.
Uh-huh. So you can bring your hands in front and just kind of show me that motion. Yeah,
Like-
it's like pulling down and grasping. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to just, this is again one of our little brain diversions, is to do the opposite of that with your hand first, right? So you're gripping and pulling down. So then you're going to, do whatever feels like the opposite to you with your hand. And do that, 3 or 4 or 5 times. Just let that, the grasping, and then it looks like you're releasing and expanding, and imagining that grip loosening, like not needing to be there anymore. It's been trying to protect you and keep you safe, but it's safe now. Don't need that. And can you imagine that opening motion and putting it back into your neck? And then just check in with that sensation, how that feels.
Feels slightly more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Do you picture it differently in any ways?
Yeah, the grip is slipping just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does it feel like, does it resonate that that grip has been a way of trying to protect you and stay on guard or safe or controlled?
Yeah, that makes complete sense that I am. I needed protection.
Yeah. And if it helps, you can like put your hand on your heart and know that you're here for yourself now. We're here for you now. It's not happening now, but it makes sense that this protection was so strong. Yeah. That makes sense. And there's some like survival type of reason that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much sense. Yeah.
It's the only thing that has actually made sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Like all the, the x-rays, the, chiropractor saying, oh, this is what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
That never really made sense to me because the symptoms moved and changed and, so this explanation it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. So maybe what we could start with is just kind of asking yourself if you can allow this to be here right now, just in this moment. If you can allow all that tightness, all that grippiness and tension to be there, with that understanding of like, we understand why, and we're going to just allow it to be there. Then you could ask yourself, is this something I would be willing to let go? And then just ask yourself, if I was willing to let it go, when? And it really doesn't matter what comes up for the answer. You can just check in with yourself. And did you get an answer of when?
Well, now.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
But there's part of me that knows that I've been wanting it to be now for years.
Yeah. But even as you say that, just check in. This little method is called the Sedona method, and we'll do it like 3 times. So just check in with yourself now that you've like kind of allowed it. You had that little kind of laugh at the end. You're like, okay, now, but you did have a little laugh, and maybe there's like a little less of some of that intensity in a way, or no? It's okay if not. It's totally okay with whatever happens.
Um, there's no when coming to mind at this moment.
No wind or when?
No when, like
When. Okay, no when.
my
Okay.
original response was now,
Okay,
and
yeah.
now I feel like I'm not getting a response.
Oh, okay. So just kind of checking back in with yourself, just like how it feels now, not asking the question, but just kind of like now compared to a minute ago when we started.
I mean, the grip feels like it's relaxed a bit.
Yeah, yeah. So even if it's just like a little layer of the onion, we could be like, maybe we've peeled back a layer. And it's
Yeah.
okay if we don't go further, but let's just ask again, even though this seems weird. Like our conscious mind would be like, why are you asking the same questions? I already answered it. Just trust me, it's just a process. And then we just check in, and then we start back with this sensation that's here, a little less grippy, but still grippy. Can I allow this? Can I allow this right now without resisting it? With that understanding of course, it felt necessary and protective, and would feel a little weird to not protect myself anymore. And then would I be willing to let it go? I feel safe with letting that protectiveness go at this point. Or at some point, at some point. And then you could ask yourself, when would I want to do that? When would I be willing? What came up that time?
I came back to now.
Yeah, that's okay. Just notice how you're feeling with that. Maybe there's judgment, maybe there's like frustration with that, but also just notice that grippiness, how that feels, the sensation, how that feels. This could be one technique. We're just going to try it. And, maybe you're like, I love breathing techniques instead or whatever, but this is just one technique when we're really resistant to something that I think is helpful to just, it's like a practice of letting go. So how's the sensation?
It's duller. Yeah.
Okay. So we're still like moving the needle. Okay. That's good. That's good. That's great. That's fun. Okay. So let's just try one more time, just like as it is now. Can I allow this to be here? I feel like that's such a crucial part that we gloss over. And just, this makes sense. This has been important. It has felt safe. It has been necessary, but no longer is. But it makes sense that it's here. And then would I be willing to let it go at some point? Is that always a yes? Or is that mixed?
No, that's always a yes.
Okay.
I mean, it feels obvious that it's a yes because it's been
Yeah.
it's been so long.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
but it makes sense that it's still here in a way too, right? To protect.
I mean, it does make sense, but from an intellectual standpoint, now that I understand
Okay.
why it's been here, I'm like, okay, you can go now. It's
okay.
I understand, and
Yeah.
we're safe now, and the threat's not here anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So as you ask yourself, it's always a yes. And then as you ask yourself when, is it also a now?
And now,
Yeah. And maybe just take a breath or two and feel into like what that might feel like. So I did want to get to what I also wanted to get to with you with the somatic tracking is also getting to that place of like, where is that place of like safety, of trust, of like, I think this is going to be okay. Maybe even if it's just those brief little glimmers you were talking about, where there's just little moments of like, okay, trust the process. I think this does work. Can you access any of that?
I think so when you say access that, you mean like the process as in like some of the techniques I used. Those are harder to access because I kind of ditched the techniques when I got frustrated and
Oh, yeah.
didn't see I didn't see as much progress as I was hoping to see.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I pretty much ditched the techniques and just went straight to I'm strong. I'm gonna do physical things now. I'm
Yeah.
gonna lift some
Okay.
heavy weights and blow
Yeah.
off some steam. And
Yeah.
when I started to do that, my symptoms have like gotten more in my face.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so about, I'd say almost a month ago, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna quit the gym because I know this isn't dangerous to me,
Yeah.
but I'm also gonna add back in like the journaling,
Mhm.
because I'm not moving in the direction I want to move in.
Okay. Yeah. And that could just be because of the fear, right? And so just seeing it as like, okay, definitely when we have fear about, you know, it not changing or urgency or frustration or anything. But as far as the gym and the exercises, one technique you could try is that graded exposure. Have you ever done that? Like imagining yourself do an exercise without pain?
So that graded exposure and visualization
Yeah.
was like the most annoying thing to me. I hated it.
Oh, okay.
And then the coach in that particular program said without that I wouldn't get better. And
Oh.
I think I have like some hatred towards those two
Oh.
techniques. When I close my eyes and try and imagine something, like
Yeah.
I feel like I get a lot of just blackness.
Oh,
Like
okay. Yeah. Okay.
it's
I
like that little moment where I tried to imagine my sensation, the
Yeah.
color white instead of purple blue.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as soon as I got a glimmer of white, it got
Yeah.
pushed back down. Like
Yeah. Okay. No worries. Yeah, I've had that happen actually with a lot of people where it's like, or maybe they could even like imagine themselves like getting up out of a chair and walking, but it comes to running, they just like black. They can't even imagine it. So it is nice to work from where you are. And I do think visualization could be really, really fun and powerful for you. But if you have a negative experience with it, that does make sense that you'd be, less likely to want to do it. Because really it doesn't matter what you do or don't do, like it's decreasing that fear, increasing those feelings of safety. And that's what the graded exposure can do, is those feelings of safety. So when I was saying like, can you access that? I just mean like in your body right now, can you find, maybe you imagine some place where you felt safe before, like at a beach, or you imagine someone in a movie is able to feel safe there, or, what do you imagine like a yacht might feel like, or something. Like you're like, this is what, maybe it is a memory you have of feeling safe, or if that feels unreachable as it is for some people, um just working towards that kind of like utopia place of where they might feel safe at some point.
mhm.
So how does that go for you as far as cultivating something that you can actually feel in your body?
I mean, the one thing that pops into my mind is us, like if you mean a real place, like I had a moment, I don't know, about a year ago where I brought friends from completely different circles together in one place, and it was my friends from different parts of my life meeting new friends of mine, and just I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I have these friends from my past and these new friends from my current life, like meeting and being all in the one place. And I remember just feeling happy to be surrounded by such a good friend group, and happy that these people from different parts of my life got to meet each other. And that felt safe and really good.
Okay, I love that. So how do you feel in your body? What sensations stand out as that, you know, how you can memorize it like a preset radio station dial?
I mean, just warm and fuzzy,
Yeah.
but like soft, warm, fuzzy, not like intense.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So like a comfortable, warm, fuzzy. A lot of people describe things in their chest. I don't want to, you know, put words in your mouth, but is it someplace like that that you could really focus on where it feels especially like warm and fuzzy and nice and pleasant?
Yeah, there, and just, yeah, I do feel in my chest, and then a little bit of goosebumps, I guess.
Yeah. And can you imagine like a texture of that feeling or color? You said fuzzy, so maybe it's like a, kind of like a cloud or like a fuzzy little animal or
Well, I'm also just getting a little pulse in my chest, like heart beating, like racing of like, this is exciting. And
oh yeah. So maybe if you could come up with some kind of like thing to remember or visual or sensation that you can develop this, because I think it sounds like this is the part that could really help with you, is feeling more safe more of the time. And that like body sensation of what it feels like to be in the flow and to not be worried about things, and the kind of thoughts you might be thinking like it's going to be okay, or things are working out for me. Like what kind of thoughts might be there? I have support from all these people, it sounds like.
yeah, that's what I've been kind of circling back to in journaling lately. Like, I remember one technique was to update the information that you have on yourself, like reminding yourself that you're not the scared child anymore. So I would journal about, okay, I'm 39 now. I have a really beautiful support system in my life. I have healthy relationships. There's no one's out to get me, none of all these people have my best interests at heart, and like they're safe, good, strong, awesome people. And so I feel like I've just been trying to work on updating my nervous system, inner child, whatever you want to call it, or both those things. I don't know, like updating her and letting her know that I do have safety in my life right now, in a very real, tangible way.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I'm thinking of like how trees, like they all support each other through their roots. And we didn't even realize that before. We thought they were all just single entities. And then we find out like if one is sick, like other trees can send nutrients to it. And And if anyone listening is like, well, I don't have that support system, that'd be nice, but I don't, we can also remember, like, we are now being that support for our inner child. We are now the one that's not going to let us get hurt again. We're going to have, we're going to be nicer to ourselves. We're going to have those boundaries with other people if we need to now. Like, we have tools now that we didn't have as a child. And we are always going to advocate for ourselves now. Like, we are not going to let abuse or any other horrible things happen to us anymore, because now we have our back. We have our own back. We are here. And because of that, you're developing such a beautiful network of people that you're allowing to support you, which is also, like, takes a lot of vulnerability and strength to receive help. But it's like one of the most invincible things when you know that you can ask for help and receive it. You don't have to do all this alone. Yeah. So how is that feeling in your body?
Now it feels like a little like hot in my chest,
Uh-huh.
but like a different kind of heat.
Oh.
Not the same heat I was feeling with the pain.
Mm.
Almost like a heart that's full.
Oh, I like that. Like a full, warm heart. And how does your, like, stomach and, like, trunk and, like, how does that part feel?
I guess stomach feels a little like, I don't know how to describe it. It feels a little warm as well.
I was just thinking of this, like, meditation that I've heard and done with people, where you imagine, like, your heart and lungs area as, like, the top of a tree, and the, like, lower belly and, intestines and stuff as the trunk, and down through the roots, the legs, and thinking of that tree that has support. And if it feels good, you could lean into positive sensations in the trunk. But if that is a place that you're feeling a lot of tension, you don't have to lean into that either. But that's why I was kind of curious if you imagine this place that you could anchor from, and maybe it's the chest and just stick with that. But maybe for some of you listening, your stomach feels particularly relaxed or grounded, or if you feel some of that, you could think of that sensation, putting your focus there, and that support and rooting and grounding feeling. But if that doesn't resonate with you, just focus on what does feel good. And I think that is as much important as an important part of the process as, decreasing the anxiety, decreasing the fear. Because it sounds like you know what to do, as far as, like, there's, like, a lot of strategies and, like, all the TMS theories, but it's more maybe just like these feelings of safety we could get more comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Cause like I said, sometimes telling myself I'm safe doesn't always sound true, even though
Yeah.
I know that I am.
Yeah. So more, those, like, meditations like this, acceptance, and then, like, maybe even some playful things that show your nervous system that you're safe, like getting friends together. It sounds like that's something you enjoy, or, you know what I mean? Some things that, like, you're going to the gym and you're trying to prove to your body you're safe, but even, like, things that are more enjoyable than the gym, right? Like, that's what I would look for. Maybe it's renting an e-bike or something, and you're like, that feels really good to just get out in the open air, or maybe it's snuggling by the fire and reading a good romance novel or something, right? Distractions, avoidance behaviors, those can be so good for calming the nervous system. And if we're the kind of people that all we're doing is trying to do all the right things and be perfect at healing by journaling the exact number of minutes per day, and, that's not going to get us where we want to go when we're just doing this, like, mechanical thing out of this habit of doing it. but still not feeling safe. Does that make sense?
Oh no, yeah, it does. That's why I missed 2 days last week journaling, and I was like, okay, who cares? Like,
Yes, exactly. Who cares?
that's
Yeah.
it's not gonna be the
Yeah.
end of me. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
keep on moving on.
No perfectionism about it. And it's not even the journaling that helps. It's the belief in it and the attitude behind it. You know what I mean? Like the emotions are what really matters, not the mechanical steps we're going through. So some of those steps can really be helpful. And also if we don't do it that day, maybe we took a nap, and that's like 100 times as helpful because we didn't beat ourselves up about not doing that one thing perfectly.
Right.
Aw, okay, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Becky says, Betsy, you are a gift. Oh, thank you. Well, my pleasure. And thanks. You know what? You did such a good job. Was that as bad as you thought?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't
Okay.
bad at all, actually.
Yeah, I went on a ledge there. I'm like, okay, you could say that it was, or it was worse than you thought, but my guess is it wasn't as bad as you thought.
No, it wasn't. No, it was a good reminder that I needed. The good reminder, because I was able to see things move and that they're not stuck.
Yes. Yes. You guys, somatic tracking, I think that is one of those things that we can easily avoid, and we can get hung up on, well, if I just do my meditating and my journaling, and if I just do this and that. But like somatic tracking is actually rewiring the brain that these sensations are safe, so it can produce them less and less. So the more we can integrate somatic tracking, if it looks like this or some other way of just for 5 seconds checking in and being like, okay, I'm just sending breath to that area and messages of safety. But that's a good reminder for everyone. Try and encourage or incorporate more somatic tracking if you can. If you've tried it once and it didn't go as well, you know what I mean? Just kind of like open yourself up to that. That's such a good tool.
Okay. Thank you.
Privileged to watch embodiment of the techniques in actioning real time. Well, thank you. I love holding space for you guys and demonstrating that, and the people who are willing to be vulnerable and be participants. So thanks to you guys as well. Okay, there are a few questions I will get to actually, and maybe we have to go over just a little bit, but I did have some great questions and I didn't have them all pulled up. So just going to give myself 1 second to, I know 3 people wrote in a question, and some of them might be kind of similar to what we've already covered. Of course, I didn't get them all on deck here. Here's one. Okay. So, and ask question. Just make sure. Okay. I was like making sure this was a question for coaching and not something she just sent me. Okay. So I noticed a glimmer last night. I noticed I didn't have any pain or tension as I was getting my daughter ready for bed, cleaning up, putting laundry away last night. It felt so good. I got so excited. I thought my body could feel like that all the time, and how that would be amazing. After I had a bath and sat down to watch a bit of TV before bed, I could feel more tension, but tried to enjoy the show. This morning I woke up hoping to feel the same way, but noticed a lot of tension in my areas. So far, I have kept an eye on the tension, hoping it wouldn't get worse, but it's sneaking in there and quite tight / discomforting now, which is frustrating. So my question is, how do I get out of that constant checking / high alert throughout the day? What is one of the best ways to stop trying to fix the body? Other than journaling about anger and fear, how can you allow it, feel it, and let it go? So, this is such a great question, because so many of us are on high alert, and we are in that, just think of that fight or flight state. Flight, we're in find the problem, fix it, scan for danger all the time, high alert, high guard, always scanning the environment for danger, right? It's like, don't let your guard down, be aware of all the things that could happen. If you feel a new twinge, what is that? I've got to figure it out, right? That is the high alert. So what are the best ways to stop that? What I teach about with the nervous system, I got this from another coach, and I've also heard that this is what they use in Al-Anon. So it's aware, allow, ask. So for anything with regulating the nervous system, this is how I see it. She comes with this question of like, I notice this constant checking, high alert. And the way I see it is through that nervous system lens. It's not in contrast to PRT. I think it just gives additional information. So it's like noticing aware, just noticing what it is that's going on is the first step. So, oh, thanks for coming, you guys that are hopping off. We're just about at time. So some people are hopping off. That's fine. So aware is just that labeling. And we know with emotions, there has been research done that when we label an emotion like anger, it takes it from the amygdala and the primitive brain to our prefrontal cortex, and it softens some of that feeling just by labeling it. So that's what I think of with that first step is aware. So we're just like, I'm dysregulated. Maybe that's all you know. Or if you know, okay, I'm going into this find it, fix it mode. So I must be going into flight. How do I fix the fix it mode? It's aware, allow, ask. So aware, you guys get that. Allow, that's the hardest one. This is what we've been talking about today. Allowing that it makes sense that we are in this survival state. It makes sense that we've spent most of our life thinking this is the best way to solve problems, is to find them, fix them. We're really good at it, right? We've been practicing these neural pathways for a long time of finding problems, finding all the imperfections, not being satisfied with things, right? And just being so critical of ourselves. So realizing like, this is a long-term pattern I've been developing for years. Maybe I saw it from my parents. Maybe, this was the best way as my nervous system was developing for me to handle the stressors that I had. Now that I have other tools, I'm going to incorporate those more and more so it's less painful to me, but it also makes sense that I'm here, right? So the allow part is like, you make sense, this makes sense, it's trying to work with you, we don't have to fight it, right? Allow. And then act, I like to have you, like, I think of even ask and then act. So ask yourself by putting your hands on your heart and just saying, what do you need right now, sweetie? What do you need, love? Because nervous system regulation can seem really complex and like you have to do, all these things just perfectly, right? But I think we do all have our own intuitive sense of how to regulate our nervous systems. And usually it's things that we might even judge ourselves on a lot, where we're like, okay, I really like watching a ton of movies on Netflix, so I can't let myself do that, and that's just really bad. And I can't scroll on my phone. And so if there's something that you already really like doing to kind of buffer and, distract, maybe you try doing that thing with some intent. Right? So see how that goes for you, because again, it's not the thing we do or not, it's the intent we have. And so if we are soothing ourselves, we're like, I am going to watch this show that I love, and it's like a comfort show, and I'm just going to curl up in my blanket. And just like if I was sick with a cold or something, I might treat myself with a little extra love. That's the intent with this nervous system regulation stuff. I'm not going to like whip myself into shape and go to the gym for an hour. I'm going to ask myself, and if it's lay on the couch and eat an oatmeal cookie wrapped up in a blanket, and I can do that without guilting myself and shaming myself, then that's going to be soothing to my nervous system. So if it is, a certain breathing method, or if it's tapping, or if it's journaling, or if it's 100 other things, right? There's so many things, and we can get so caught up in what's the perfect thing. Maybe I haven't found the perfect thing yet. Ask yourself. It will be harder at first because you don't have that, experience with trusting yourself. But if you keep asking yourself, guaranteed you will have your own best answers. And sometimes I ask myself and I try my best, I'm like, I do think I want this cookie and this treat. And then later I'm like, maybe I didn't want to eat all that. But, it's like, you don't have to be perfect at it. You kind of calibrate as you go. Right. And so now I'm cultivated, like, maybe I don't want to get a huge cookie, but I want to get like a fruity flavored water or something, like that feels better in my body or whatever, right? So starting to trust that, aware, allow, act, that's the advice I'd give for getting out of that constant checking and high alert throughout the day. Another thing you could just do is mini relaxations throughout the day. So if you can, maybe even set your phone to remind yourself certain periods of time to just like take some breaths or relax your shoulders or soften the face, look out the window, you know, those little things. If you think of it like a diet, you know, we don't just like eat one big meal. I mean, some people do, right? But if you're not intermittent fasting, like most of us don't just like eat one meal once a day or once a week or something, right? We're eating, you know, throughout the day, we're eating meals or we're eating some snacks here and there. So that's how we want to treat the nervous system regulation, not just when I'm in the state, what do I do? But more like preventative, like, you know, proactive with the nervous system. That can help too. The other thing I would say is just like really getting familiar with some of those beliefs that you have, maybe looking for detective for the opposite. The FIT criteria from Dr. Schubiner are really good if you're like, how do I convince myself that it's neuroplastic? Just memorize how neuroplastic pain behaves. And then when your pain is behaving like that, you know, that can help with some of that high alert. But it's definitely, you know, just something to observe. There I am going into high alert again and, you know, letting that go, right? Okay. I'm just going to stick with some of these questions. I know we're a little over time. Oh my gosh, someone's cooking at my house. So if you hear a little, usually Zoom cuts out the loud noises, but hopefully that's not too distracting. Okay, next question. I'll try to be a little more succinct. Please talk about the symptom imperative. I'm having symptoms bouncing around from part to part. I believe trying to find a place that will really send me into a fear state. Yeah, so far I'm handling it well, but wondering about ways to move past this. So definitely the symptom imperative, you could think of that. I love how they say it in The Way Out as an extinction burst. So the study that they did with the rats, they were pressing a button and giving them food, and the button broke. And instead of just stopping pressing the button for a little period of time, the rats started pressing it even more intently and, you know, faster and urgently. And then they finally realized nothing's going to happen and they stopped. So that's how we like to think of the symptom imperatives, is that it may feel like a little haywire. You may get old symptoms coming back. You may get new symptoms. But the more you can be neutral about it and trust the process, your brain will eventually, they will become extinct. And that word itself, extinction burst, can be nice because you can remind yourself, even though it's feeling like more pain, it's because it's becoming extinct. Okay. So trusting the process, you know, soothing your nervous system, that's always the answer. But like the more you can come at it with calmness, which I know this is like Jedi level stuff, you guys. I'm not saying it's easy, right? I'm definitely not saying like, oh, just do that. Easy peasy, ignore your pain. It's, you know, react neutrally. But there are moments you guys are doing it. I know you are. So even if it's just for moments, that starts to shift the momentum. So don't undervalue those little moments that you have those glimmers, and know that that is the process, is just these little bits by little bits, rewiring your brain with neutrality, messages of safety, and that consistency of like, nothing's going wrong here. Nothing to worry about. Okay, I think I have one more. And it might be, okay, so this is anonymous. I have a lot of trauma in my life. My father died at a young age. My mother was emotionally neglectful and continues to be. I also lost my daughter. So a lot of my self-care and coping mechanisms were walking in nature and sport in nature, and I suppose work. I was doing therapy too, but now I'm unable to work or walk yet. But it's so hard to deal with this pain when my function is so limited. There's so many more losses with this pain. It's hard to keep going even when I'm doing all the work. I so want to just throw on my runners like I used to and just head into the wilderness. Any advice? So yes, this is such a good question. First of all, sorry for all of your suffering and losses, and that is a lot. Yes, that is a lot. So it makes sense that a lot of us have a certain activity that we used to really love doing that was calming to us, that was physical. It's not with every single case, but many, many people that I see, the one thing that they really love doing to calm down and to manage their mental state and emotions is something physical, and they can't do it anymore. So that is absolutely an extra challenge. But I think of it like any case in coaching where someone really, really desperately wants something, but they don't have it yet. So like if someone really wanted, say, to lose weight, and they're saying like, I'll feel good once I have the weight loss, I'll feel free, but I can't feel free yet because I don't. And we want to see how you can start feeling free now. So if it was someone, for example, who was like, I've just always wanted to be in a loving relationship and be married, and I'm so desperately looking for partners, but I just can't find anyone, and I just really need to get married. You know what I mean? That urgency is actually preventing them from the thing they really want. So although it does seem extra hard with pain and with movement, maybe seeing the similarities of like, okay, this is just another example of how I don't have what I really want, but how can I do something to get that similar feeling now? So this is where you get a little creative if you can, and being so patient with yourself. So, again, maybe the running and being out in the wilderness, there's a sense of freedom, and you might think of, how you could bring that sense of freedom in now. And maybe it's just freedom in like, I get to put on whatever music I want, and I can really think of any music in the world. And like, I have so much freedom to look up any song, and you know what I mean? Just like even little examples of how you could feel that sense now. Or maybe you just sit outside. Maybe going out in the wilderness is not an option for you, but you are able to go onto your porch and look out at the landscape and breathe some air. Or, you know what I mean? It sounds to a lot of people like, well, that's not what I really want. But that's how we start, is just changing that momentum through little tiny steps and glimmers, and showing your brain like this is possible. If imagining some of those things could be pleasurable for you, you could do some graded exposure with imagining walking in the wilderness and the breath, the smell of the forest air, and you know what I mean? You could, and maybe that's too hard to do, and that's okay too. So starting with where you're at, but this is where, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is possible to start to lean into where you can find those positive sensations. And some people have really enjoyed comedy shows, and it's totally okay to distract yourself right now. You are not going to process all of the emotions that, like when you've had a lot and and you have pain, like expecting yourself to process all your emotions to get out of it is just not going to happen. So distract. Avoidance techniques is what they call it. It's legit. You can do it. Don't beat yourself up because of it. And that will even start to move the needle in the direction of safety, right? If you can accept that your nervous system is in a state, right, because of all that, and just starting to soothe it, aware, allow, act. And maybe that action is taking a nap, or maybe that action is, you know what I mean? Doing some really sweet, kind things to yourself, for yourself. And it doesn't look a certain way that someone else did it in a book. Does that make sense? So I would say the walking and running is probably in your near future. And some people would say, just go, put on the runners, go out there. If you could do that without fear, and you didn't think it would trigger your nervous system, that could work. generally what we find, and what with PRT, we really don't advise like pushing into the pain, pushing past the pain. For some people it totally works. And there's authors that, you know, they're just like, talk back to your back and push. Okay. But PRT is more like a gentle approach. And I would much rather have you visualize doing it pain-free 100 times, because again, we know how powerful visualization is, even to build muscle strength. I would way rather that will feel safer to your nervous system than going and doing it in real life and worrying about, well, maybe I just, you know, actually did some damage, or what is going on here? Why can't I make this work? Or maybe I'm not good at mind body. Like, that's way too much. That's like Super Bowl level. We just want to like practice and get good at what's easy first. Okay. So thanks you guys for sticking around. That's all of the questions. I love this. You guys have the best questions. And like, I love the people who are willing to come on and participate as well. Thanks, guys. I will post this replay on my YouTube video, or on my YouTube site, and the Tell Me About Your Pain Facebook group. So you can find that there. And if you have any other questions, you could always, what's the best way? Just find me on social media, or you could email me. I think it's info@bodyandmindlifecoach.com. But if you got this message about this, you know how to find me somehow. So you can message me there. All right, you guys, take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Great.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure.
Such a gem.
I feel good
Love
too. I always feel good after I coach. Love you guys too. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.